What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel guys. Today I'm going to be doing my official best of 2021 for rap albums. I was going to do this last year but I didn't end up getting around to it, but now that I have a webcam, a new microphone and everything, I think it's a little bit easier to do video styles this way. Now, sorry if the quality is a little off. This is the first time I've tried a video like this, so I haven't necessarily got everything down yet, but with all this being said, I just pulled up a tier list that has literally almost every single project that's dropped this year, whether it's an EP, a mixtape, or an album. Now, there's a few that I've heard of or that I knew dropped, stuff like Smoke Perp, or obviously like KSI, French Montana, Youngboy. I'm not really going to be going over those just because I don't listen to their music like that. There was a few KSI songs I liked, but I didn't listen to that album in its entirety. And same goes with Youngboy. And even the same with this Wayne and Rich the Kid tape. I haven't listened to them enough to be able to really differentiate what songs were on there and actually have songs that I remember from them. So basically I just moved all the albums to the top that we are going to be using for this video. We're going to be going from Fighting Demons all the way until Montero from Lil Nas X, and then the tiers that I created is best of 2021. This is going to be my favorite albums that released this year. Fire is going to be albums that I really enjoyed. Okay are going to be albums that were alright. There were a few songs on there that I liked, and then mid, obviously just nothing really stood out to me at all. And then the last tier is bad. This is going to be projects or albums that I didn't like. I think there's only going to be one or two out of these albums that I actually just didn't like, but with all this being said, we're going to start with Fighting Demons. Now, you guys can go watch my Fighting Demons review if you want on my main channel for my reasonings behind a lot of this, but I think that Fighting Demons is a good project. Obviously, Juice didn't pick this track list, nothing like that, but out of the leaks chosen for this and my Grail Feel Alone being on it and just the new on hers we got, like Girl in My Dreams, Go Hard, I think that this is a solid project, and I'm going to put it in best of 2021. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Juice. He's my favorite rapper, so I feel like a lot of you expected this. But on to Polo G's Hall of Fame, the original. Now, we do have both the original and the deluxe in here. Something I do want to point out, too, before I go any further is I said in my review for the deluxe that I enjoyed it better than the original, but after a couple weeks of, the deluxe being out and then the originals obviously being out for a few months, I do like the original a lot more. Now, I don't consider the original best of the year, but I do consider the original one fire. I know a lot of people are hating on Polo lately, but there's songs on this that I enjoyed. I enjoyed Gain Gain. I enjoyed Broken Guitars. There's a lot of songs on the original Hall of Fame that I am a fan of, so I'm just going to say it was a fire album. Now, Trip at Night is a little weird for me just because I did enjoy this album when it released, especially. I listened to it a lot, but it just got to the point where I just kind of got tired of the beats, and it was hard for me to actually listen through this album in its entirety. I would have to pick a song or two every now and then that I wanted to listen to because I just didn't want to listen to this whole album where not necessarily the beats sound the same, it just the type of beats, the rage beats got really repetitive to me. Not that I didn't like the album though. So I'm obviously not going to say it's bad. I'm not going to say it's mid, but I am going to say Trip and I was okay just because there's songs on it that I really do like. Finish Line I think is great. Supernatural is great, but for the most part, I haven't went back and listened to this album since probably September, maybe early October. So yeah, but I don't want to hate on Trippie because it's cool that he's going out and trying new styles and everything, and I want to give him big props for that. I wasn't just personally a fan of this Rage stuff when it very first started popping up, but then as we got Mr. Rage, this album, Fago, I started getting more into it, and I think I definitely enjoy it a lot more now than I did, but not enough to where I would rank this album above Hall of Fame or Fighting Demons. Now, arguably one of my favorite, if not my favorite project that released this year is We Love You Tekka 2. I'm saying this is best of 2021. I think this album was super underrated. It got looked over by Drake and Kanye, which sucks, but this was a great project. From songs like Seaside, Choppa Shoot the Loudest, and my favorite song on the album, Money on Me. It's just a great project. I think it was really dope that he went back to Internet Money and worked on a new We Love You Tekka. And I don't like this one better than the original, but I do enjoy this one a lot. And it was a good album that lasted me a while. I still listen to a couple songs every now and then, but when this project dropped, this is literally all I listened to. So I consider this a W, and this is probably this probably is my favorite actual album they released this year because Fighting Demons was obviously just released by Juice's label, so whether you consider that or not, We Love You Tekka 2 is probably my favorite project released by an artist this year. Alright, now Punk by Young Thug. This album really stood out as something unique and a lot different than what I was expecting it to be, but I was super hyped for this album. I literally remember thinking about it back in like summer. I was really hyped for this album, and some of the songs I really like off this album are like Hate the Game, the Juice feature even. There's a lot of good songs on this project. Now, I'm not going to say it was best of 2021. I know in my review of it I said it was album of the year, and I think when a new album drops, I just really like it so much at the beginning, especially with something like this or Love You Take It Too, that I do consider album of the year. But I'm gonna say Punk is fire. I did enjoy Punk more than Hall of Fame, but definitely wasn't the best of 2021. But moving on to Neon Shark. Now, this kind of forgot that this released this year, not because I didn't like it or I don't listen to it, but well, I don't really listen to it anymore, but this just dropped so early at the beginning of this year that I always forget that it released not even a year ago. But I really did like Neon Shark. I liked it better than Trip at Night. I'm just going to give it okay, though. I really liked the fusion between Travis Barker and like rock songs with Trippie's voice. I thought that would be a super dope blend, which it was, and I enjoyed this album. I know it got a lot of hate or no one really talked about it, but if you don't believe me, go back and watch a lot of my older videos of my ranking Trippie Redd's best albums, or even my Neon Shark review. This is, if not my favorite, one of my top favorite Trippie projects ever, just because of how unique it is and everything. But I think we do have to give Trippie props. If you look at this, Trippie dropped a rock album this year and a full rage album this year. He's definitely going out and trying new things, and you can't hate on Trippie for that. Alright, now we have the F Love 3, the ending chapter to LAROI's series. Obviously, the Deluxe dropped as well. Now, I was more of a fan of the Deluxe, but there were still songs on the OG that I was a fan of as well. And obviously, stuff like Stay came from this project, which is LAROI's biggest song to date. As a whole, though, I never really was a fan of the original F Love. I liked Savage. It wasn't bad at all. And I'm not saying any of the parts were bad. I just wasn't a fan of the original, really. And then the second part that came, I really liked. This part, I would say, I don't know if I necessarily fully liked it better than Savage looking back at it, but I did like it better than the original. I'm just going to give it okay, though. I'm probably going to put it behind Trip at Night because I've definitely listened to Trip at Night more, but this album isn't bad by any means, and I still did enjoy it. Now, we're moving on to probably what was one of the biggest letdowns of this year was Roddy's Live Life Fast. We waited around 2 years for this project, and I don't know. I've seen a lot of mixed things about it. I didn't think it was bad my first full listen. I listened to the album in its entirety, top to bottom, and because I really like Roddy and I wanted this album to be something I liked, but it really wasn't. But I don't want to call it mid because it's still Roddy, and Roddy is one of my favorite rappers right now. But at least how I'm standing right now, I have to say that this album was mid, just because even looking back at it, it's been out for almost getting close to a week now, and there just wasn't a lot of songs on here that I super enjoyed. I wasn't really a fan of Late at Night. Obviously, that song did extremely well, and a lot of people did enjoy it. But for me, that song was not for me. And yeah, I mean, it sucks to put this album here, but I'm trying to be brutally honest. And if you guys disagree with me, that's fine. You can let me know in the comments down below. And maybe as time goes on, too, I will enjoy this album, because I don't think this album is bad by any means. There's just nothing that really stood out from like the first couple listens to me, other than there were a couple songs I enjoyed. I know I liked Man Made. There's a few that I still listen to, but usually when a brand new album drops, that's like the only thing I listen to. And when an album like this drops and I'm only listening to like one song, and then I'm going back to stuff like Finding Demons or We Love You Tekka 2, that's kind of how I know I wasn't a huge fan of the album. But my opinions hopefully will change on this as time goes on. I'm going to keep listening to it, but for right now, after only a few days of it being out, not my favorite. Alright, now Baby Keem's album surprised me. This is a best of 2021. I know I've never talked about him. I don't think I've ever said a word about him on my channels, but I have listened to this album so much this year. It might be my most streamed album this year. This album surprised me. I never was a huge Baby Keem fan, but I did enjoy him like Orange Soda, and this album really changed my opinion on him a lot. I completely look at him as a whole new artist now, and I'm definitely going to be looking into and making videos on future projects he's releasing and just keeping a closer eye on him, because this album surprised me and it was one of my favorites this year. Moving on to another album. The next like four albums or mixtapes that I completely forgot released this year just because they released at the beginning of the year. We have Golden's debut album. Now, this album wasn't bad, but there was nothing on it that really stood out to me. Obviously, it had Mood on it, but it also had Yellow Lights. That was my favorite song on it, but I'm going to have to say I did like Roddy's album more than this, but yeah, I don't really have much to say about this album. But moving on to Sign Language 2, I was really hoping like Think Twice would be on this project, but this and the deluxe had some really good songs on them. Liddy was fire with DaBaby. There was a couple other really good songs on this album, obviously, like Ski. So I'm going to say Slime Language 2 was fire. I didn't like it more than Hall of Fame, but I did enjoy it. And yeah, I guess actually out of both projects that Thug released this year, both were pretty good in my opinion. Now, moving on to another album that I forgot, like I said, was Unbothered by Skies, and also the deluxe. Now, I kind of just grouping the deluxes with these because they're not listed individually, but yeah, the deluxe obviously had Ice Water with Trippie, How You Feel. I was a fan of both of those. The original album had a couple on there too, like Dead Broke or Having My Way with Durk that I was a fan of, but overall, I have to say that this album was mid. I did enjoy it more than Golden's album, but from what I've even just heard from Roddy's, I still liked that more than Skies, and I didn't really find any replay value in this project that Skies dropped. But I still do like Skies, and I'm going to keep listening to everything he drops because I want to see him do well, and it would be dope to see him come back, especially now after a lot of the hate he's got. So I'm keeping my eye on Skies. And then Sin City from Ski is the first thing from Ski that I wasn't a huge fan of. I'm honestly kind of debating putting this in mid just because when I listened to this, I was super disappointed. I mean, I guess it was just from the anticipation of how long we had waited for something from Ski. It was just kind of disappointing to me when we finally got Sin City. I know this is just a mixtape and there's more to come. This isn't even the album, but there was not a single song off Sin City that I really go back and listen to now that I can think of it. So I have to say that honestly, this is mid, and that's no hate towards Ski because I do like Ski's music, but this mixtape just wasn't for me. Alright, now Voice of the Heroes with Durk and Baby is one of my favorite projects this year as well. I'm going to say this project was fire. I did like it more in Sign Language too, but I still listen to Hall of Fame more. But one of my favorite songs on this album was 2040. This album was a really good collab tape, and I kind of think that the whole Baby and Durk duo is getting a little overrated, but this album was before all that, so I'm not going to hate on that. It was a really good album when it released, and I listened to it a lot, or at least a few tracks off of it. And then we have Before Artist vs. Artist, which was Boogie's like kind of little mixtape going to his album Artist vs. Artist. I believe that's released in 2022. I thought this was okay. I'm going to put it at the bottom of okay. I did like the first like 2 or 3 tracks off of it, but other than that, I didn't really have any hype going into it, so I had no expectations, so it really couldn't disappoint me, I guess, actually. It was just going to surprise me or be a couple good songs, and there was just a couple good songs on it. Now, Hall of Fame 2.0, I don't know. Honestly, I don't want to say it was mid because I don't think it was. There was a couple really good songs on here, like the one with Choppa was fire, and then obviously Smooth Criminal. There was a couple good ones on here, so I'm just going to put it on okay after Boogie, though. Honestly, I enjoyed Boogie's mixtape more than this deluxe, especially after some time has sat back and I've listened to the deluxe more. It's really, really fallen off for me. Now, another project that I was a huge fan of that I don't know if I've talked about, but I have a vinyl of this project, is Off Season. This is one of my favorite albums. I liked it more than Baby Keem's album, but I still did like We Love You Tyga 2 more just because I had a lot of hype for that. But don't get me wrong, J. Cole is the GOAT, and this was one of my favorite projects this year. I'm moving over to Donda, at least I'm supposing, or I'm guessing that's what this is. I know I never ended up doing a Donda review, which some of you guys did want, but basically, just in short, Donda was a fire album. I'm going to put it above Hall of Fame. Actually, you know what? We'll put it above Punk. There was a lot of songs on there. I don't want to say, honestly, now I'm thinking about it, it was a best of 2021. Definitely wasn't above these 4 projects for me, but it was one of the best projects to release this year. And there was songs with like Cardi on here, Roddy. There was a lot of good music on this album. But moving over to Certified Lover Boy, I wasn't a fan of this album. I'm not going to say it's bad just because I'm going to get hate for that. And I also don't want to say it's mid, so I'm just going to put it at the very bottom. But I'm not a huge fan of Drake, and I didn't listen to this really at all. There was a few songs off here. It was dope that how he like sampled Juice's voice, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. Now, something else that released this year, Life of a Don, that I wasn't a huge fan of. There was only a couple tracks on here that kind of stood out to me, so I'm going to say this one was okay. I liked it more than Boogie's album, though, but now this is one that you guys might not know, but I did listen to this album, and it was Fetty Wap's album. He released a project this year, if you didn't know, and it was pretty fire. There was a couple good songs on here, honestly, but for the most part, yeah, no one really talks about Fetty Wap or anything, but I had to throw this in here, so I think this album was good, though. I don't think it was mid at all. Honestly, I liked it more than Certified Lover Boy, but you know how much hate I'm going to get if I put this above Drake's album, but I mean, I liked it more. But moving over to Boat, he dropped a mixtape earlier this year. I think this was a few months ago, but this was a pretty solid mixtape as well. I'm going to put it below Certified Lover Boy because there wasn't a lot on here that I go back and listen to, but it was a good mixtape, don't get me wrong. Okay, I took a couple of albums out just because now looking back at them, I don't really even remember enough from Sleepy Hollow's album other than the couple big songs, and same with 42 Doug to actually give an opinion on their albums. But G Herbo's album I thought was fire that released this year. I'm going to put it below Sound Language too, but there were songs on here like Top that I really enjoyed with 21 Savage, so I have to say that was a fire album. Now, TJ's album he released this year, I have not been a fan of a lot of stuff TJ did. I was a huge fan of his first album, True to Myself, or I think that was his first album, and like some songs that released before that, like Hold On, but this album was mid to me. Nothing on it I liked. I didn't really like Calling My Phone. Something else I didn't like really was From Me to You, especially after Quedeca's voice memos. This was something that I was hyped for, but this just didn't really stand out to me too much. So I'm going to put it above Fetty Wap's album, but I don't really listen to it. Obviously, Pop Smoke's album, I don't even say anything. This was a terrible album by his management. And I also think that the Migos album was terrible this year. The Juice feature sucked. Everything on this album sucked. No one talked about it. I honestly forgot it dropped this year. But moving over to Pierre Bourne's album that he released this year as well, or mixtape, I guess. I don't know exactly what he considers it. I thought this album was pretty good. Not anything fire in my opinion. Now, not saying the album isn't fire, but it's just definitely not my type of music, especially if you've seen what I upload videos on. You would probably know that this isn't a lot of my taste, but I'm going to put it above Fetty Wap. Actually, I'll put it above even From Me to You. I don't know why I keep saying voice memos. That's actually going to be all for this video, guys. I'm not going to rank Lil Nas X album because I didn't really listen to it. I'm not a fan of him, but this is my tier list for 2021. Let me know what your guys' favorite albums were and least favorite albums were in the comments down below. Sorry this was such a long video, but thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
Lay beats, this go crazy.